I hate Ohio.
Times were tough, so I sold my soul. And I don't think I'll ever regain control.
Well, if you can't tell by the decay, I am in the Rust Belt. Welcome to Marietta, Ohio, where I'm staying for the next couple of nights. I actually got in last night, but I didn't film anything because it wasn't too late, but I was awfully tired. I'd driven literally all day, and it was like torrential, unrelenting, heavy rains for 5 hours of it. But yeah, here I am in Marietta. I am not staying in that hotel. I'm actually staying in this one, the Baymont Inn. And primarily, I'm here to visit family, but I hope to do a little bike touring while I'm here. We'll see. All these old industrial river towns along the Ohio River here in Ohio and West Virginia they're not that great for biking, but Marietta seems decent, I suppose. I can probably get a day worth of riding out. I'm actually here to visit family mostly in West Virginia, about an hour and a half into West Virginia, why am I staying this far away? Well, 3 reasons. 1, there's not really any hotels close to where they live. 2, the hotels that are closer are twice the price of the ones here in Marietta. And 3, it's more possible to bike near the river than it is in the mountains. So here I am. Yeah, see how this goes. Yes. I tell you, it's strange to travel to West Virginia when you don't live there and you're not used to it anymore. I lived in West Virginia for 3 years, the other end of the state, but I've been traveling this road up and down Interstate 77 my whole life because my family lives, down this road. And I'm at this rest area, which is mile, 165 or so on 77 South. And I mean, even when I was like a little kid, this place looked dated, but it looks the same. It really does. And of course, since it's West Virginia, the only people you see traveling are industry, probably fossil fuels. CenturyLink, I thought they were all Frontier in West Virginia. How much does it cost? 50 cents for local call. Jeez. See if there's a dial tone. There totally is. See if you can pick it up on the mic. I don't know where the mic is. That's wild. When's the last time you heard a dial tone? This is just getting sad. I was expecting brochures and travel information and, stuff. But there's one pamphlet, and I'll bet it's Jesus. You can, Yep, sure is. Okay. Ripley Baptist Temple. So these are the guys that have been littering. Awesome. Just to note, it is currently 10:30 in the morning. What do you think? 60, 70 years that sign's been there? Alrighty, well, today is my bike exploring day. Family was good yesterday, so you might see some montages of driving around the area, mostly West Virginia, but testing out the new action cam, which you can see on the bike there. But anyway, there is a bike system in Marietta, and looking into it more, I think I underestimated how much there was yesterday. I thought maybe there's like 5 miles. There's like maybe 30 miles of like road bike-ish, hybrid-y kind of trail. There's also a bunch of mountain bike trails in the area, which I'm not going to do. But yeah. The other nice thing about this hotel is the way in is over by that light And if I turn right and go down that way, that's where the river trail starts. So action cam is deployed and time to go explore. It's 9:30 in the morning, high of 83 today, which is a little warmer than I was in Canada, but you know, theoretically I can still handle that even though I live up north now. Yeah, check it out. Hey, check it out, voiceover. So what you're seeing right now is the very beginning of my tour around Marietta. I did this in early August, and I was excited about it. I have some close connections to this region of America, and looked like I'd picked the perfect hotel. The nearest bike trail was right around the corner and just down the block, and I was looking forward to about 25, 30 miles worth of biking in a town I'd never really taken the time to hang out in. I'd been there my whole life, off and on, but I just hadn't taken the time to really dig in, and I was so excited to just go around this corner and just have a whole new adventure. I hate Ohio. Alright, well, I turned the corner and I saw this sign come the other way, and I thought, I hate when they do that to be clever, because, you know, it's not like standards say use 5-mile-an-hour increments on like highways, and this is a bike trail, so you could just say like don't. But anyway, so I turned around and kept going, and bike path's closed, and there's somebody riding right through it. Interesting. Huh. So I can get there from the other side, and it's rideable. But in order to get over there, I have to ride along that busy strode, that 4-lane that goes under the interchange and has exit ramps. Like, okay, I lived in Ohio, and just, there's a reason I never took up biking until I left. It just, come on, man. In other news, this is the back of that former Quality Inn and now Wingate, and it looks like they were kind of renovating the restaurant, or tearing out the wall, or removing the banquet. I don't know what they're doing, but it's kind of interesting. This, like, the Rust Belt is really interesting. You just shouldn't expect like good infrastructure. Okay, so here's the thing, is I literally just saw somebody, like you saw it on video too, like somebody came riding up from the other side and then got to this gate and then turned around and went back. Like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try to get the bike through there, because I don't want to ride down the highway. I mean, I could go get the car. Like, this isn't one of those no car challenges, but what? Why do you hate bikes? So another biker came up and stopped and offered to help me lift my bike up over the railing. And we talked about how it's weird that this hasn't opened. Apparently he rides this like every day, and he's been coming by here for a month waiting for him to open it. Like, I'm half tempted to go to Walmart and buy a set of bolt cutters and just cut that chain, honestly. But I don't know if they have a camera or anything. I'm sure nobody would notice if it's not under surveillance. Okay, well, anyway, gonna continue. I really have no idea why that was closed. I did happen to catch a little clip the morning I left Marietta on the news about how they had to close it again coming up soon for some kind of work. Who knows? That's Ohio for you. But anyway, it's a pleasant little trail. This just snakes right along the river, and you can see just a few spots there in the distance is the Interstate 77 bridge over the Ohio River, which, unlike the Sault Ste. Marie trip, you can't bike on I-77 at any point through here, but as you'll see in a little bit, there is another bridge which I will bike across later. This part of the trail basically just went along the river. The river's gorgeous, but there wasn't too much else to see right through here. There were official-looking fences with plastic over the chain link so you couldn't see inside. And then there was a barbed wire fence protecting the water treatment plant, and so hooray for that. Here you can see the blacked out, and I guess you can actually kind of see more in the action cam than I could see going by. And here's the water treatment plant with the police boat. Yay, Ohio. But once I got past that, a couple of nice little curves, and then a little bit of snaking through a neighborhood, and then to the city parks down by the actual river. You'll always notice that houses are pretty old in the Rust Belt in this part of the country, but these are actually in pretty good shape, at least right here. Well, I made it through that. I didn't stop to get a picture of or a video of the I-77 bridge, but I probably will on the way back, because I'd rather deal with that gate again than deal with the highway. This bridge, though, it connects, is it Williamstown, West Virginia, on that side with Marietta, Ohio on this side, and that is on, actually, until the shore, because, fun fact, Ohio actually has no jurisdiction over any part of the Ohio River. It's all in the states it borders. So until right where the shoreline is there. To the right, that's Ohio State Route 60, and to the left, you can see that gantry there, is West Virginia Route 14, which was the original route from, well, here, Marietta through Parkersburg to Charleston. Now I-77 does that. But anyway, nice place to be. I've always loved the Ohio River. I mean, now I live near the Great Lakes, so it's, you know, kind of not as nice, but still nice to be here and nice to see all the history. So yeah, it's kind of wild to me how, like, I could throw a rock from Ohio just as soon as it hits the water. It's in West Virginia, but still kind of cool. I'm feeling adventurous, which I'm sort of. I will probably ride across this bridge because there is a separated pedestrian and bicycle path that goes across. I'll probably just go over that park just to say that I've biked across the river. Can't do that on I-77, obviously. Not here anyway. You do it on 75 in Sault Ste. Marie, and that's about it. Could also climb, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4 flights of stairs to get up to the bridge, but I can go over there and bike up, so we'll see. But anyway, this is a really nice little neighborhood here right by the bridge, right by the river. Little brick street. Could totally enjoy being here. Marietta is a very old town. In fact, it's the oldest settlement in what at the time was the Northwest Territory, which is the first part of the expansion of the United States west from the original 13 colonies. Of course, West Virginia at the time was part of Virginia and all that, but this was kind of the home base. In fact, it very much was the home base for all of the settlement of the Midwest, and, you know, it became the blueprint of everywhere west of here. So you do get a sense of it being kind of different than the stuff across the river, but also still feeling very old-fashioned compared to a lot of other towns and cities throughout the Midwest. Okay, Marietta River Trail, which is where I'm at. Do not operate things, multi-use, greater speed. Lights, I've got one. Reflectors, okay. Brakes, yes, I don't have a bell. I took the clown horn off. Don't tell anybody. These are always cool. The Appalachian Trail Bridge across the Potomac River at Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, has a bunch of locks just all the way along the bridge because it has a lot of grading. I just always think these are a cool thing to have here. And I am married, but A, my wife's not here with me, and B, don't have a lock. And they like engrave the heck out of these here too. Man. Well, okay, that guy didn't, but yeah. Like these old ones too. I wonder how long this has been here. Clearly a while, because some of these are rusting out and all that. So this is the confluence of the Muskingum River. Locally they pronounce it Muskingum. They kind of skip the N. It's Muskingum. But that's to the right. And the Ohio River right there, which flows that way. If you didn't realize that, I'm standing on the North Shore. So it heads that way for St. Louis and then down to the Gulf. And I think this bridge is supposed to be part of one of the city trails, but it is heavily barricaded. I'm going to go scout it out here in a second and see just how impassable it is. I can't sneak around here because there's, you know, lots of obviousness to that. That's kind of a shame. That's okay. I can continue on the trail under the bridge there, which I will do. Cool old electricity tower. Okay, I'm glad I came up here because this is pretty cool looking. You can see my bike down there on the left. But clearly an old rail bridge with a wood pedestrian path, which, according to the trail map, is supposed to be bikeable. But clearly it's not. Bridge closed. Let's see if I can get a view up through the chain there. Yeah, I'd ride that. I mean, in better condition, obviously. Hello, bird. This is the Harmar Bridge, which that little town over there is Harmar. I'm not sure if it's just a district of Marietta or if it's its own town, but anyway, let's see what the sign says. Save Harmar Bridge. Initially built as a covered bridge, converted to a railroad bridge. One of the first iron bridges during the Civil War. Interesting. It's still in operation today. No? Okay. Owned by the bridge company. Save the bridge. Oh, so a private company owns it, but they don't want to pay, so they're asking for donations. But I just give it to the city. Let the city do it. If the city cares, which according to my experience over by the other end of the trail, they don't. Okay, never mind. This bridge is never going to open again, is it? Well, at this point in the day, I hadn't really decided what all I was going to see for sure. I had consulted a bike trail map, but that's about it. I really had actually planned to go across that bridge that was closed, but with that out of the picture, I decided to just keep following the river trail. Most of what the river trail went by was just kind of open, grassy park with lots of very big, very mature trees around on either side, and while I have plenty of action cam footage of that, you know, it's not the most interesting. Imagine this right here, but for a couple of miles, and you get the idea. However, it was a lovely day, and I was happy to keep riding. My first hint that maybe there were some problems with the way bikes were routed in this town was right about here, when the bike trail just said to go along the sidewalk, and I felt it wasn't terribly unsafe to just ride around people. This one I really didn't understand. Like, why am I taking this bypass? Is this supposed to be like a turnout to pass people? Or do they not want bikes to see in front of that bush? And then when I came around, there was, of course, a couple using the sidewalk, as you would expect. But the real problems with the bike trail wouldn't become evident until later in the day. For now, I was just happy to be outside. Well, this is pretty cool. It's an old steam-powered towboat that would tow steel barges. Paddle wheel powered. Tours are closed, but you still see barges of stuff going down the Ohio. Okay, I gotta keep this one on normal angle, non-zoom and non-fisheye here to show you this. So from where I'm at now, you can see the height of the river. Obviously that boat's floating in it, right? But there's water there, which is about average for the Ohio, or I guess the Muskingum, but at this point they're functionally the same. The confluence is like a mile that way. But anyway, these poles show all of the historic floods, and that super tall one was 1913, which, if you know anything about Ohio history, is the flood that like wiped Dayton off the map almost entirely. Fortunately, at a time when it was booming, so they created what was at the time and may still be the most robust flood control system in the world in Dayton, Ohio. But yeah, 1913 flood made history books all up and down the Ohio. from left to right, it's 1884, 1898, 1907, 1913, and 1937. So one last point here. I've been knocking this area for their lack of bike infrastructure, which now that I'm downtown is not so bad. But if you can see up on that ridge there, like that's right across the river. And the problem is that in this part of the world, once you get sometimes even 10 yards away from the water, from the river, it's straight up into a mountain range, and so not really bikeable terrain most places. So it kind of makes sense that there wouldn't be much in the way of bike culture in this area. That said, it's my favorite way to experience a place. So maybe, if you live in this area, write to your city councils and stuff and say you want it. So it's the only way they'll build it, unless you're in Ohio, in which case they'll just ignore you. I love the stupidity of mid-century modern architecture. Like, let's build a box with picnic tables under it. I mean, that's so cool. It's ugly as sin, but I love it. And the surveillance camera there really brings it home. Once the trail left the sort of downtown historical district, it started to go by some businesses and some private boating clubs. And as cool as it was to see the town, I started to feel the same thing I tend to feel whenever I spend time in Ohio, and that is there are an awful lot of rules posted on an awful lot of signs all over everything. This boating club here on the left was pretty cool, but there was a no trespassing sign about every 10 or 12 feet. And then eventually around the corner I passed a fairgrounds. I don't know why there was a gate on the trail here. You can see there's a fence separating the fairgrounds from the trail, and there's the gate on the other end. It looked for all the world like they would just sometimes want to close off the trail for no real reason, because the only way to access it is through those gates. You can't get to it from the fairgrounds. So I don't know, unless maybe it's a flood control thing. I have no idea. But it seemed unnecessary. And then, fairly unceremoniously, the trail ended here in this park. Okay, I've made it to here, which I did the river trail. Starting down there. It was closed at that crossing. That's how far I got before I had to do that whole thing. But anyway, the rest of it was fine. There's a weird, you go past the fairgrounds or something, horse stuff. There's a guy with a horse. And then for some reason there's like a gate on either end, but there's still fencing all the way along the trail that separates it from the grounds. So I guess they just close the trail for no reason sometimes because Ohio. Anyway, there's the Muskingum River. And yeah, I think my plan from here is going to be to follow this connector, which the dashed lines are connectors. So it's Linwood to Muskingum. There's how you spell that. Muskingum, Rathbone, Davis, and then see what's going on here. Not sure if those are mountain bike trails or dirt trails or what they are, but if they don't look too bad, I'll cut through to this connector here at Gibbons and Sizzler, which I guess is trail 15 and 13. And then connect that over to here to trail 7. There went the bike. To trail 17, which is the North Hills Trail. And then loop that back around there. And then from there, I don't know. Probably be lunchtime by then. But that'll probably cover most of Marietta as far as the trails go. So yeah, first order of business is find a bathroom. But I also wanted to mention rules of the trail. Don't do anything. It kind of bugs me, honestly, when people get all get their panties in a twist. There's no good way to say it. Get all up in arms, there we go, about e-bikes. And I understand they don't want people going too fast and crowding out pedestrians, but really, just post a speed limit. you know, and let people bring what they want. Obviously, you don't want a motorcycle on there, but it's pretty easy to, I don't know. That's just me. I like e-bikes because it means I can go on rides like this with people I know who don't ride all the time. It evens the playing field, and it feels discriminatory when people put stuff like that on their trails. Oh well, whatever. Bathroom time. I think that building looks like a bathroom. I've been in Ohio enough to know what a bathroom looks like in a park. Yeah. So first things first, the indicated bike trail is up that do not enter ramp. So I couldn't go that way, so I turned right and went down this street, which I got to see some real Rust Belt decay here in these homes. These houses obviously had been here for decades upon decades, and people who lived there did not have the money to maintain them, which was unfortunate, of course. Ran into some traffic here, but once I made it around the corner, again, there are no signs, but this is supposed to be the connector trail. There's an awful looking highway sign with the wrong font on it. But I knew I wanted to get to Route 60, which was Muskegon Street. Had to cross a street here to use the left turn lane. Again, no designated bike lanes or anything like that. And this was a pretty steep upgrade. You can't really see that. And watch here what this road is like as I actually make the turn. This is the main road through this sort of north part of town. All those Appalachian row houses there, unprotected sewer grates, that sidewalk there on the right, there was a steep curb to get up to it, so obviously they didn't want bicyclists on it. And there's one car next to another sewer grate, going uphill. There's a postal van, notice he didn't even leave the lane. Another car. This is what riding on this road was like. Was not all that fun, and the locals were... You can always kind of tell when drivers aren't accustomed to bicycle traffic because they don't really know how to handle you. Sometimes they don't even think about moving out of the way, or they just pass really fast or something. Nobody honked, at least. I appreciate that. But I decided as I summited this little hill that I was not going to ride on this road again. So as soon as I possibly could, I turned off. This was, again, the designated route, but no signs. My goal was to climb the hill to Marietta High School, where I expected to find cross-town trails. And that turned out to be more of a challenge than I expected. All right, Marietta High School, top of a hill. Because Ohio, no concealed carry. What a stupid state. Anyway, I kind of don't think the trails here are going to be usable for me, so gonna need a plan B. I just rode up that hill, which is why I'm out of breath. So we'll see what I figure out. I know. Bicycles are supposed to follow traffic laws. But in a place where the drivers aren't familiar with dealing with bicyclists, when there's no bike infrastructure to speak of in most of the town, you do what's safe if you have any sense. So to all those who are saying, Shaggy B broke a bunch of rules on his bike for the rest of this video, yeah, I did. And I'm safe, I'm uninjured, and my bike is intact. I have nothing to apologize for. From that climb, I've learned a couple things. Actually, from this whole end of town. Number one, this is not a bikeable city. So I think maybe plan A of throwing the rack on the car and shuttling the bike to places that I want to go is probably the way to go. So the problem is I'm on the other end of town from the bike, or from the car. So I also realized I forgot to put on any sunscreen but I have some with me, so I'm gonna do that now. Gatorade up a bit. And then start making my way back toward the direction of the hotel. It is currently 11:15, so maybe have lunch, regroup, figure out a new plan. Okay, I figured it out. So I'm behind the marathon, and instead of riding on the busy road, which I did on the way over here, you can kind of see there's a desire path there that people bike through. I'm gonna be one of those guys. I'm gonna bike over that parking lot, which connects to the back streets, which connect over to the river trail, and I'll head back to that park where I started, or where I left the trail, and that's where I'll regroup and find a plan. Nice spot to stop and think for a bit. So, I think I have a plan. Where I am now is right next to the Sacravia Park, to use the Vulgate. Sacravia in classical Latin, but anyway, sacred road. That's over that way. But according to the map, it's just kind of a park marking where there was an old, like, indigenous people's trail that ended at the river from somewhere up north. Not up north, but north of here. So I think I'll ride around that real quick and just kind of glance around. I'll have the action cam running so you can see what's going on there. And then I think what I'm gonna do is try and cross the Washington Street Bridge, which I don't know if you can see any of from here. No, you can't, but it's over there behind those trees. And then get over to the end of town where that closed rail bridge would have gone. And there's a barbecue place right on the river shore, and I will have lunch there. So that is the plan of my plans so far today. Every single one of them involving the bike has had a wrench thrown into it by bad Ohio public management. But we'll see. Okay, so here's the thing. This is lovely, and I'm really glad that it's a nice green space, but like it's just this open field, right? And very cool. I don't feel a need to bike around that. So, you know, I came from over there. This is literally all it is. So there's the sign. Indigenous heritage really matters, and I'm really glad that they're marking it, but I'm not gonna bike around that. So off to lunch. At this point, I had really come to terms with the fact that what the city said on their bicycle maps as far as where you could bike was just not going to pan out. So I decided to cross over the Washington Street Bridge, which you're about to see all of in 3 times fast motion speed. The Washington Street Bridge carries Ohio State Route 7, which is the route that runs along the river. It actually runs from the northeasternmost corner of Ohio, pretty much along the state line, and then it continues to follow the state line to the southernmost point around Portsmouth, or I guess South Point, not Portsmouth, where it's taken over by US 52. If you're into highways, that's interesting. If you're not, then I'm not quite sure why you're watching this video. But I rode on the sidewalk, as I said. I gave up with trying to be super detailed on actual bicycle rules, and I just rode where it seemed safest. And that's the crossing. This bridge was built around 2000 to replace the Palmer Street Bridge, which is actually on the National Register of Historic Things, I suppose. And I'll cross that one later. But back to normal speed. I'm now in the Harmar district, which I did learn it has a complicated history. It was first established as part of the city of Marietta, and then separated into its own city, and then reincorporated all within the early part of the 19th century. But it does have a different feel. It feels more rural, it feels more kind of bohemian, Feels a lot more like a lot of the other river towns along the Ohio, like the big ones like Wheeling, and even Pittsburgh to an extent. But nice place to hang out. I felt a lot more at ease hanging out in Harmar. There wasn't as much to do, but there also wasn't as much traffic. Things weren't as necessarily crowded. If I was going to live there, I'd pick this part of town for sure. And as I went into the neighborhood, I noticed a couple of interesting things. First was all these big, really, really old houses that were in excellent condition, as though people had really invested a lot of time and money and love into keeping up these old houses. And another was something that you're going to see in the Rust Belt just kind of everywhere, which is this line for the food pantry. People waiting in their cars for help with getting something to eat for lunch, which is unfortunate, but I'm glad that they provide the service. This is about when I noticed, too, that I had missed the Rivers, Trails, and Ales event that weekend. And finally, before stopping for lunch, I encounter Ohio's state animal again, more road construction. Don't know what they're doing here, but of course it's Ohio. They have to do it right on the river, on the perfect day. Absolutely. And here is where I wound up having a bite to eat.